Welcome to the Burrillville School Committee regular meeting, May 10th, 2016, 6:30 p.m., Burrillville High School Media Center, 425 East Avenue, Harrisville, Rhode Island. Members present, all. I'd like you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, and at the end of the Pledge of Allegiance, please stay standing.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to, if we could, have a moment of silence for Mrs. Helen Williams. She was a teacher's aide for the Burrillville school system for over 30 years before retiring. Thank you. Recognition, none. Consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda consisting of the minutes of the regular meeting dated April 12, 2016, and to approve the 2015-16 school warrant number 10 for the month of April dated May 10th, 2016, for a grand total of $2,358,893.75, and to award the rink cooling bid to Automatic Temperature Controls in Cranston, Rhode Island, in the amount of $39,800, and to award the Burrillville High School and Burrillville Middle School roofing project bid to Cape Way Roofing Systems Incorporated, Westport, Mass, in the amount of $650,500.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Just a quick point on the minutes with respect to the last page of the survey with the presentation Sandra Malone had done for us. It did make reference to the last page of the survey being changed, although we haven't seen it yet, so should it state that it was, it's going to be changed? I'm not sure if that's being semantics, but that would be item number 4. The last sentence says the last page of the survey had been changed. We haven't seen that copy yet.
Right.
So
That's why she's not on the agenda.
okay, but I'm just saying it says that it was changed, and I haven't seen it, so I don't know if it's going to be changed.
I thought that's what she went out and got for you to look at.
She had given me the high school by mistake, so I haven't seen.
We're waiting for more,
Yeah,
for
so
a final
that, just as
version.
clarification, because we haven't seen it, that's all.
So change that sentence for you. So could,
Friendly amendment?
please.
Okay.
All right, is that agreeable to,
Yes.
Yes.
As amended, I would also like to add that for the bid for the cooling tower, I'd like to make note that that will come from the rink surplus as a funding source. So I would accept a friendly amendment for that.
So moved.
Second?
Second. Frank, anything to say about the funding source?
No, because that's already been approved.
Okay.
With the capital.
Okay, any further questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, I can't vote for the minutes because I wasn't here.
So you'll abstain? An
but
abstention.
everything else? you're-
Everything else, yep,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Abstention on the minutes?
Abstention on the minutes. Fixed minutes.
Good. Item 4, presentations by the public to the school committee. Bench buddy presentation by committee person Alexandra Leclerc.
No, I don't need to do anything. We already have a policy in place for holding. If the principals wanted to approve, simply, we don't have to do anything.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. I'm just here to give a very short presentation on the Buddy Bench program. So a little background information. In the spring of 2013, a first grader who attended an elementary school in Pennsylvania was researching schools in Germany because his family was going to have to move there. And while he was doing his research, he came across benches that were put out on the playgrounds in Germany. And he soon realized that it was the Buddy Bench program. So he loved the idea so much that he brought it up to his principal at his elementary school in Pennsylvania. The principal loved it. He worked with other faculty members to come up with a plan. And then a year later, Christian found out that he didn't have to move to Germany, and they would put a Buddy Bench on the elementary school playground property. This program has received, all different media outlets have looked at it and have publicized it, from NBC to the Huffington Post to different social media sites. It's very, very popular. So what is the Buddy Bench? The main purpose of the Buddy Bench is to decrease the amount of bullying that occurs outside during recess. The Buddy Bench it's very simple. It's a bench that is placed outside on the recess/playground area. And the whole thought is that when a student doesn't have anyone to play with at recess, they go and sit on that bench, and then other students who see them sitting there will run over and invite them to go play with them. So a student should be sitting on the bench for no longer than 2 to 3 minutes. It should be a very short amount of time before other students run over and go invite them to play together. Key tips when starting this program. So the bench should be painted very with bright, vibrant colors. It should be the focal point of the recess area. It shouldn't be to one side or the other. All students should be able to see it while they're at recess. School principals should definitely organize a time to meet with the faculty members and students in their school to explain the program, the whole purpose behind it. And then once they have that big giant school meeting, they should have, the classroom teachers should meet with their individual students and just talk about the program. Do they like it? Do they know what the main purpose is? Do they feel like it's working? So these are different examples of Buddy Benches throughout the country. So like I said, they're painted very brightly. They have different sayings on them or animals. You want it to be a place where students feel comfortable to go sit. You don't want them to feel ashamed to go sit on the Buddy Bench. It should be a very positive experience. In the top row, all the way to the left, that is Christian with his school principal after they place their Buddy Bench out on their property. I just have a short 3-minute video that kind of sums up this whole project. So that video just kind of sums up the whole project and the purpose behind it. Up to this point, I have contacted the 3 elementary school principals about this idea. I've met with the Steer Farm Elementary School PBIS team. At this point, all of the principals are going to bring this idea to either their PBIS team or their school improvement team, and then they are going to report back to me on how they feel about this and if they want to do it at the school. Again, this is just for informational purposes. We will not be taking any votes on this. I just wanted to keep you all in the loop and let you know what I've been working on. Does anyone have any questions for me?
I just had a couple of quick questions, but before we start, I did talk to Ms. Leclerc concerning what she just said about it being for informational purposes only. Your school committee's function is to work policy, to work on policy, and this would be almost like a procedure, and that we have to watch the fine line between those two. But I know this is just for informational purposes. Usually, any ideas would go through the superintendent, who'd filter them down. But great job. I think it definitely warrants merit. In my classroom, I used to have a buddy system similar to this, but they would buddy up since the first day. And then, we'd switch buddies, or when we were working with different activities, we'd get 2 or 3 groups together, so they knew a good number of kids. And so that's how I used to do it in all the years I was teaching. But I guess had a question, because when you implement something like this, I know you have to look at the number of kids in the school, and are they all out at recess at one time, things like that. So I didn't know if you had any of that kind of information. What is it, the overlook, what was it, classroom? Anyway, the name of the school, Round Town. Did they give you any information like that as far as like how many kids that they had?
They didn't. I looked at the school website. They had actually their own link to a buddy bench website,
Okay.
and there was no information like that. I think in our elementary schools, and I could be mistaken, but I think we go out by grade. Is that correct, to recess? Not necessarily? Okay.
Okay, because that's, could be like and I can't say a scheduling problem when you got the whole school out and you have so many benches, but hopefully there won't be that many.
Well, there would only be 1 bench per school.
I'm sorry?
There would only be 1 bench per school.
Bench per school?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Very good. That was basically was that a private school or public school? Do you know?
I believe public.
Public school. Okay. All right, thank you. Good job.
Anyone else have any questions for Ms. Leclerc? I think that in terms of policy, I think the bullying policy of the school covers this particular plans. If the principals wanted to initiate this, I think we would be covered. Certainly you would check with Dr. Pilata, but from my point of view, policy, we're good because this comes under the bullying policy. So although the committee's doesn't need to vote on it, I think a favorable endorsement of it would be good, even though we're not voting. Myself, personally, I think it's a great idea. I think we're covered under policy, and I would like to see it, if the principals would like to initiate this in their school, I think they should have the green light. So that's my personal opinion. We don't need to vote on it, but for me, you have you have a green light.
And I think it's also very beneficial for teachers if they see the same students sitting on the bench, then clearly they see that, oh, I should make a better connection with the student, or they should help the student in a more effective way. So I think that could be very beneficial for educators as well.
Great. Good job. Anyone else? Any questions from principals? Hearing none, you're dismissed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
Item 5, public comment. Anyone wishing to speak, please step up to the podium, state your name and address.
David Place. Wow. You got a better system in here than we did at last time we had our public meeting here. David Place, 167 Jefferson Road. As many of you know, I'm also on the town council, and I only say that because the perspective I'm approaching this comes from being an elected official. Very often as elected officials, we find ourselves falling into boxes and losing perspective on what goes on the outside, and the constituents sometimes don't always necessarily get back to us on things. So the reason why I'm here tonight isn't necessarily, it's not here to lecture, it's not here to say that I know more, or this is how I feel, my feelings were hurt, or anything like that. It's just a situation where I think I owe the school committee and the constituents that I represent to make these statements. As many of you know, my daughter was opted out from the park testing last week. My wife and I still feel that she was singled out in the manner in which she was treated. You know, there was an option to send her to the media center instead of just making her sit there by herself. And I can't get over that. This is not the first time where similar situations like this have happened. And again, this is perspective. I'm not making accusations, but this is what my wife and I saw. Last year, there were statements made to students that we will make assignments so difficult for you, you will wish your parents had not opted you out. So this year, there was no assignment. She just had to sit there by herself in the class and just sit there. That was it. So that was the repercussion. So she wasn't flooded with work, but instead, she just had to sit there by herself as if she was put in timeout. So that's our perspective. And it's the second year in a row something similar, something like this has happened. And I would hope there's not a third time, because when you get feedback from the public, you're supposed to respond to it. And I don't feel that the administration responded to last year's feedback in terms of the way students were singled out. And I'm hoping that me coming here this year might have a little bit more impact on things. The second thing I'd like to discuss, I actually had several parents come up to me at the special meeting that the town council had at the lodge, saying that they were shocked that all of a sudden they found out their kids were taking the park this year. They had opted them out last year, and unbeknownst to them, their kids come home and say, "Mom, Dad, I took the park today." Parents were shocked. I kind of caught it at the last minute. Maybe I wasn't paying attention. I don't know. But again, from the perspective of the town council, we have in case you don't know, there's a big issue going on in town right now, and the town council we were behind the power curve for a long time on it. You guys had a similar thing last year with the park. I was hoping that instead of being more defensive about it, that things would be more open in terms of you would let people know what's going on, and it would be out there so people would know and be informed about the fact that this was coming up, knowing that it was such a hot button issue last year that you would approach it not from the appearance that you're trying to hide it, but that it's coming, we're being open about it, we're being honest about it. Again, that's the perception that I had about my daughter. My wife had the same perception based on the feedback we got. Also, a teacher came up to her and said the same thing. She's being singled out, not these exact words, but the reason why she has to do that was because she had to sit there. And again, I had parents come up to me at our meeting and say they feel like that it was hidden from them that the park was coming up. So feedback from a fellow elected official, feedback from a parent. Hope you guys have a good night. Thank you.
Well, can we respond to you?
The
sorry.
committee members will not be responding. If
No.
Dr. Pilata would like to respond, that's
Okay.
okay, but committee members will not respond.
Well, there's two issues you brought up. One is about transparency. Back in January and December, we sent out at least 3 communications about park. One communication came from the school committee where they approved the letter to be sent home. That was sent home electronically by the schools. The schools, you correct me if I'm wrong. 3 letters went out about the park examination, explaining to them also that it was reduced in nature this year, that it wasn't going to be as long as it was last year. So I'm a little confused by the fact that saying that parents weren't made aware of it. Last year, we had 60% participation. To this date, as we speak now, Dave, it's been about 97% participation. So they have been participating, and they have been notified at least 3 times that park was going to be given this year, going back in December. So I can't speak to the people who did not get that information. When we send that information out, we assume that people receive it.
Well,
That's-
again, the numbers you just spoke, by this time, and again, I'm gonna ask a hypothetical, but if, if we had gotten, if you'd received a 30% not taking it last time, then all of a sudden that 30% pretty much goes away in its entirety. And you had gotten no notifications, whereas prior years you had gotten plenty of notifications that people were opting their kids out. And you hadn't gotten those leading up to it, it just would lead me to believe that the message just wasn't out there. I don't know if you've necessarily, again, based on the feedback I'm getting, people weren't convinced that the kids should take the park this year. They just didn't know it was coming. So again, and I agree with you, sometimes people need to look at the information themselves. Again, my comment was, it didn't get out, and people are coming back to me. Again, town council held multiple public meetings about the power plant, but again, people come back and say, it's a surprise. And again, it was just, the way I wanted to go about this was not as a, he said, she said, a lecture. It wasn't, you did bad, we do good. It was just general observation from someone on the outside, because when you're on the inside, sometimes you lose perspective. Just because you send out emails isn't necessarily the best way to reach people when you're trying to notify them about something as important as last year, 30% of parents decided to opt their students out. This year, it's only 3%. That's a big number. It seems to me that I don't think the information got out because I don't think people's attitudes about the exam have changed.
Well, you're
That was my only
saying
comment.
you think, and you want hypotheticals. I'm telling you for a fact that we sent out 3 letters. That's a fact. I mean, a hypothetical about a parent, how many parents are out there? They always had the opportunity to opt out. That always existed through a
So-
conversation that was brought about by the group that was against it last year. So it's not new information. And there'll be other information going out, and if the parents take a look at it, they're gonna find out that park is going to be in existence, Dave, through 2017. After 2017, who knows what's gonna happen to park? It might disappear. We all hope it will disappear. But that information will come out, again, as we did this year, to notify people about park. We've talked about it at public meetings. I don't think anybody has showed up at a public meeting that we had it on the agenda, and I'll stand corrected by school committee people, anyone that came and speak against it. It was on the agenda at least 2 or 3 times, brought up by Mr. Allen, and he spoke about it, he spoke against it. So it's not like we are not transparent, we're trying to be as transparent as possible. I don't know what else we can do outside of notifying individuals 3 times, putting it on a public agenda, and having an opportunity to speak about it, just like the town council. I'm not gonna say that the majority of the people, or the perception out there was that they weren't notified. I refuse to accept that. And not only that, I went around to every school and invited parents and spoke to every faculty about POC, because I wanted the percent of the participation rate to increase. So I did that in addition to also sending out the letters. So I think we did humanly possibly what we could do. So I'm not gonna be swayed by 1 or 2 parents who maybe were not notified, thinking that that was the majority. I refuse to accept that.
I can
The
say,
only comment I have as chairman is, I'm beside myself that you're calling yourself an outsider. I don't.
outsider, did I
said
call
you're-
myself an
you're
outsider?
Did you say you were an outsider looking in and making these comments?
No, I'm someone on the inside.
Okay.
I'm very familiar with being in,
Right.
what can happen is, we as elected officials,
Right.
Dr. Pilata's comments pretty much go to that point.
Right.
What we lose perspective on is people trust us to go about to do our business every single day as elected officials. And the last thing we should be doing when all of a sudden that they do become aware of something they may not have been paying attention to is tell them, shame on you for not paying attention.
Shame on who?
I just, pretty much Dr. Pilata's response to me was, well.
No,
it's
don't
not-
misinterpret
no,
my comments, Dave.
You said that it's not your fault that people weren't paying attention to your meetings or to.
I didn't say paying attention. I said it's not our fault. After we send out 3 notices, we've had it on public agenda at least 2 or 3 times. What else humanly possibly can we do? Mr. Allen has brought it to this committee prior to him sitting on this committee. And he brought parents here to speak against it.
Well, so you know.
I've been totally transparent about it.
I'm not here, I have another meeting I have to go to, okay? My comments are, the feedback that I am getting from my constituents was that your effort to notify parents didn't work. They weren't notified. It did not work. I'm providing you with the feedback.
All right, thank you for your comments. Appreciate it. Next item, personnel. Or unless there's anyone else wishing to speak under public comment. Hearing none. Personnel, appointments, leaves of absence, retirements, resignations,
Mr. Chairman,
and teacher non-renewal.
I would like to make a motion to accept the following retirements with regret. Mr. Dennis Kafalis, principal at Burrillville Middle School, effective July 12th, 2016, and Mrs. Ann Knoll, teacher assistant at Burrillville Middle School, effective August 10th, 2016. Thank you for your many years of dedicated service to the school department. They will both definitely be missed.
Also, I'd like to make a comment if I could on the.
Second with,
So we have a
With regret.
motion and a second.
Second.
From Dot, you're seconding?
yes, I did.
Motion and a second.
The retirement of Dennis Kafalis is going to be definitely a great loss to the system. I found him to be all-around likable guy, very professional, kids first, did an amazing job, the things that I've heard of him. Ann Nault was a teacher's aide in my, teacher assistant, I guess that's what in my kindergarten class for about a year, a little over a year. And that was a little while ago, and she's finishing up at the middle school, so she did get to see the little ones progress from when she had them. So I wish both individuals a lot of luck and happiness in their retirement. Thank you.
Anyone else? I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Make a motion to approve the appointments of Deborah Musso, resource at Stair Farm Elementary, effective the school year 2016-2017, and Mary Lou Tupper, director, academic summer school, for stipend of $4,000.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Appointments, lead teachers.
I'll make a motion to approve the appointments of lead teachers for Pamela Ullum, English Language Arts at A.T. Levy, $1,000 stipend shared. Amanda Martins, English Language Arts, also at A.T. Levy, $1,000 shared. Keith Tucker, Mathematics at A.T. Levy, $1,000. Kelly Gregan, Science at A.T. Levy, and Joan Supernat, Social Studies at, I guess at A.T. Levy, both for $1,000.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Appointments, principal assistants.
Make a motion to approve the appointments. Kim Holmes, elementary special educator, $30 an hour.
Oh, back up, appointments, principals, assistants.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Apologize. Principal assistant, Mary Jean Boucher at Austin T. Levy, $1,000 stipend.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Appointments, ESY program.
Motion to approve the appointments for the ESY program. Kim Holmes, elementary special educator, and Brittany Hill, elementary special educator, both at $30 an hour. Danielle Durkin, job coach at current contractual rate. Michelle Stanley, speech language therapist, $45 an hour. And Lynn Ciencio, physical therapist, $45 an hour.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion?
Discussion, question. At the current contractual rate, what is that?
Current contractor rate for job coach.
Is it a standing amount, or is it? She's a contracted service. So she's contracted, okay.
Yeah, a flat rate or hourly?
No, a flat hourly rate.
Flat hourly rate.
Thank you.
Yeah, anyone else? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Leaves of absence.
Make a motion to accept the following leaves of absence. Sarah Susi, grade 5, Steer Farm Elementary, 1-year leave of absence for the 2016-2017 school year. Gail Townsend, school social worker at Callahan, 1-year leave of absence for the 2016-2017 school year. Kayla Dyer, grade 4 at Callahan School, 1-year leave of absence for the 2016-2017 school year. And Stacy Sunderland, a school psychologist, additional 1-year leave of absence, 2016-2017 school year.
Please note that that's Stacy Sunderland pending appropriate documentation. And I will also second the motion as amended.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Appointments, athletics.
Motion to approve the athletic appointments of Paul Bianco, boys lacrosse assistant at Burrillville High School, and Douglas Allen, boys lacrosse assistant, Burrillville High School, both volunteers.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Teacher non-renewals.
Reluctantly make the motion to approve the non-renewal of the following teachers. A very unpleasant task we hate to do, but hopefully, things-
Would it be okay to just to accept the non-renewal list as presented, or you want to accept the non-renewal list as presented?
fine, that
I will
sounds like a
second
good
that.
idea.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Old business, fiscal year 16,
Motion to
BSD
open.
budget.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone have questions for Robin?
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Fiscal year 16 rink budget update. Does anyone have any questions for Robin? Or Dave?
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Second?
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Policy 2221, in-school observations, second reading.
Motion to approve policy P2221, in-school observation, second reading, and dispense with the reading.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion?
I've got a question. With respect to the final paragraph in the document, it refers to parents, but throughout the document, it doesn't make reference to any particular category of observers. It just in general says observer. I was just
Where are you,
questioning
Tom?
why.
Where are you?
The final paragraph on the second page.
Number 6.
Yeah, number 6, it just makes reference to the parents who don't comply with the guidelines, whereas the rest of the document refers to observers. Is that intentional, or is that just to separate
No,
out parents?
the intent of the observation was, for example, sometimes the parent requests that an outside observer come in to observe their child in the classroom, let's say an outside school psychologist. We have no guidelines for that. This provides the guidelines for that to take place.
Okay, I understand then. This is not in reference to a parent who
No.
may be doing the observation, it's a parent who's requested.
No.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Superintendent's report.
Motion to open.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
School redistricting plan, recommend approval.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to kind of summarize for you what we've done with the school redistricting plan. We had an initial meeting, which was held on September 30th, 2015. We had approximately 36 members that served on a committee. We created 6 committees: enrollment and demographics, school capacity, grade structure, fiscal impact, curriculum and communications. Subcommittee reviewed, did their work in those individual areas. Each subcommittee reported back to the full committee on January 7th, 2016. The next meeting was scheduled on March 15th, at which time a vote was taken to approve the plan, which was to redraw the boundary line between Stair Farm and Callahan School. We also scheduled 2 public hearings, one at A.T. Levy and one at the high school. The public hearing that we held at A.T. Levy was April 13th, and we held a public hearing on April 26th at the high school to address any parental concerns. We reviewed all that information, and the Redistricting Advisory Committee took a vote to approve the plan, which you have a copy of in your packet. After reviewing everything, the fiscal impact, the impact that it would have on families and children, the least disruptive plan was to just redraw the boundary line, taking into consideration the projected housing units that will be developed in the town moving forward. What the plan essentially does by moving the line is equalize the enrollment pretty much between Callahan and Stair Farm. No student was negatively impacted, no family was negatively impacted. What we plan to do is that as Mrs. Mayu registers new kindergarten students, she's going to hand them a packet of information with which you have in front of you. We hope to have the maps that we can hand out to the new registrations. So essentially, we will address the new parents registering in the town, and we also address the fact that parents had a choice. If they had siblings in a different school, they had a choice to send that child to either Callahan or Stair Farm. So we gave parents choices. If a child was in a special program in one school and the child was scheduled to go to another school, the parent had that choice to put those children together. The questions that we fielded from the parents really were not in any way negative. They were provided with a lot of information. I think the main concern, at least that I got from one of the parents at Levy, was they have a friendship with 2 kids in the neighborhood, and they were going to go to separate schools. And obviously, that's something we can't control. And that seemed to be really the only strong comment that one of the parents had. But the parents appreciated the fact that we provided them with all the information. This plan has no fiscal impact. It's not going to cost any more money to the school department. And I believe it only affected 43 students, roughly 20 to 30 families, and those families were not negatively impacted at all by redrawing the boundary line. So we come before you this evening, asking you to formally approve the redistricting plan by simply just redrawing the boundary line. And we also worked with the bus company to solidify the bus stops, to make sure there was no impact there, negative impact on families. We always get, every school year, some glitches with the bus stops, and we normally correct those within the first 2 or 3 weeks, and everything is usually fine. So I'm asking you to approve the plan that was approved by the 36-member panel that we had to redraw the boundary line, effective for the 2017 school year.
I'll make that motion to approve the redistricting plan.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Can you, qualify, actually clarify, is it the 216, 217 school year, or 217, 218 school year?
17, 18 school year, correct? Yeah. So we'll have a whole year to promote it and get it out to the community, make sure they understand it, particularly for people buying homes, thinking that they may go to one school and not go to that school. So the communications committee is going to deal with that aspect of it to make sure that we are totally transparent with the change. And we'll be able to pretty much reach every parent as they come to register at Levy. But I think our goal is to get the word out prior to parents registering their children. So it's out there.
Now, when you said there was like 20 families that were in the affected area. About that, right?
Well, roughly 20 to
Okay.
25 families, about 43 kids.
So how did the district go out and communicate with them? Because when I went to the public meeting, there wasn't many people there.
Most of those parents were Levy parents. We had about 18, 20 parents at Levy
Okay,
that showed
good,
up.
good.
That's the area that I thought we would have the greatest participation at Levy. Redrawing the line really was not going to affect anybody that's currently in the school because nobody was going to be moved.
Right.
So those parents felt as though their child was at Stair Farm, they're gonna stay there through grade 5, same thing at Callahan. So I think that's why we didn't get a big turnout. But we did get a big turnout at Levy, because those are the kids that would be affected. And not even so much those kids. I mean, the first graders aren't gonna be affected, because they're gonna go to the school they normally go to because of the
School
17,
they're
18
lying.
implementation. It's essentially the new kids who are going to register. Those are the families that will be affected. And that's why we have to communicate that to the public.
What
This whole
about like
school
a
year.
first grader this year that would go to, say, Stair Farm this year, but then have to go to Callahan? Well, I mean, he wouldn't make that change, right? He would
No.
stay in Stair Farm.
They have that choice.
They'd have the choice at that point. And we've reached out to them and told them that they have had that choice. Gotcha. Just making sure the communication was clear to everybody.
Hopefully, if anybody has any comments or they're reaching out to someone
I
about.
mean, it's a very small
about this,
group. When you
they'll-
see the map, it's not a big chunk of the town. It's
Hopefully,
very
people from
small.
the public will reach out to school committee members for school committee agenda items.
Mhm.
No, the map doesn't, what the map does, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
I think what the map does, I think it moves about 100 or 125 developments to one side.
Right. But those
That's really
developments
the
aren't
biggest impact.
on the town now, so, yeah. Understand.
I just want to thank the entire committee that put this plan together. I attended most of the meetings and went to most of the presentations, and they were very well. They were put on very well and were very informative to the public. So kudos to the whole committee. It's a big task, and you guys did a great job with it.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I save my comments till after the vote. Thank you very much for all the work you did. I know it was long and tedious and a lot of hours, but did a great job, and I think it worked out very well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Administrative reports.
Motion to accept the administrative reports with many thanks, and barring any questions from the committee. And I believe it's this time of the year where we make them smile and say that we would like them to dispense with their administrative reports for the rest of the school year and through the summer.
I just have one comment.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Discussion. Dr. Pilata?
I just want to have one comment, and this is just for the record. As you heard in my earlier comments to Mr. Place, that park will be in existence next school year, 2017. After that, we don't know where it's going to go. But in your high school handbook, it's not a graduation requirement, but there's a statement in there on the state testing that says all students in 2016-17 school year are mandated to participate in the park assessment test for students enrolled in English 9, English 10, as well as Algebra 1 and geometry courses. So I don't want, we'll get the word out as best we can, but I don't want parents to get upset over the fact and connect that it's a requirement to graduate, because it's not a requirement to graduate, but it's a requirement to take the test through 2017. So we'll address that issue, and in case that issue is brought to you, at least you have an understanding why. And hopefully, we can take that statement out after next year.
Anyone else? Mr. Clay?
I just want to congratulate the Burrillville High School Unified Basketball Team. They made it all the way to the championship game. They didn't come home with the trophy, but that's okay. I'm just really proud of the unified basketball and volleyball programs we have at the high school. The first year that we did it was when I was a senior in high school, and they have just transformed into these awesome events and programs. I know Dr. Pilata went to the senior game, and the whole high school student body was there, and it was just such a fun game and a great environment to be in, and you left with big smiles on your faces. So congrats to all the athletes and the coaches on a great season.
Mr. Brizard, I just want to point something. I've been a little bit outspoken on the technology piece in the school, and I do notice that there is something that's going to be taking place where we're going to be focusing a little bit more on personalized learning, using, I guess there's going to be Lighthouse Classrooms they're being recognized as. I have a few concerns about that type of technology, and it's sort of new to me, and I think it's new to a lot of us, but I'm not sure if we could get maybe a little more clarification on what that entails. I know it's just briefly written up in the piece here, but maybe in the future we could get a little more information about what that is.
Lighthouse? Lighthouse?
Yeah, the Lighthouse Classrooms, it seems like that's something that we're going to be, targeting individual classrooms, I guess, that would be using
We
this
can
new.
give you that, sure.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Hearing none. I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Reports of school committees, subcommittees. Sick Bank Committee.
Okay, the sick bank committee met on April 28th, and 15 days were given to a certified staff member.
Motion received and file, or is that what I want, or? Okay. Item 11, correspondence communications. For those of you who did not attend the REASC annual meeting, there was a brochure of the day that was provided for you from REASC. It was very, very interested. Everyone from Massachusetts was there, and explaining how their new plan is working and how they developed testing, et cetera, and their number one thing that they all agreed with is that Rhode Island should not do it their way. Right? So, I said we should have our own way of doing things. Comment.
One concern that I do have with the Rhode Island School Committee meeting, of the Rhode Island School Committees, is that they have not, it doesn't seem to me that they have added, or they plan on adding, health and social services for these students who are not passing these tests in order to graduate. And that's my big concern. That's a major part of the Massachusetts plan. It should be a major part of the Rhode Island plan.
Thank you. And that's all we have for anyone else for correspondence communications? Hearing none, new business. School committee meeting dates for 2016, 2017.
Make a motion to approve?
Second?
Motion is second. Any discussion?
Yeah, just a question of why September, October, and November are not the second Tuesdays. Any idea on that?
The way the calendar of holidays fall.
Holidays? Okay. Yeah, I have it. I'm just wondering. Okay.
Better to go the week before rather than the week after.
Anyone else? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Committee on agenda items?
Title
I make a motion, policy 8,
Oh, 1 second, sorry.
I'm sorry.
Business, school committee meeting dates. Policy 82241, policy related to Title I parent involvement, revised, first reading.
Motion to approve policy 8241 related to Title I parent involvement, first reading and dispense with reading.
Second?
Motion is second, discussion? Mr. Allen?
I've just a question with respect to the references to the Elementary and Secondary Education Act. Is the new Every Student Succeeds Act going to now supersede that piece of legislation? Are we going to be developing something that ties into that? Because is it my assumption was that the act that they're referring to is no longer valid as it was replaced by that new.
If I could answer.
Yeah, yeah.
For Title I, all of the application process and regulations are staying as they have existed prior to the reorganization. Reason is we haven't gotten federal guidance yet. We anticipate that with next year's application and revisions, we'll have clear guidance, and both the policy and the application process will, change in accordance with that guidance.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Approved 2016-2017 school handbooks.
Motion to approve the handbooks with one correction. In the middle school, where it lists the school committee members, I know a lot of people know me as Mike, but formerly it's John M. or John Michael, however they want to put it on. Last page. Other than that, everything else is fine, John.
I will second that.
Motion and a second. Discussion?
Just a real quick one. I just happened to notice on page 72 of the high school handbook, the item number 2, I think the word should be use his or her Burrillville School Department network access as opposed
Oh,
to
yeah.
sue.
Accept the motion as amended. Anyone else? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Committee on agenda items. Hearing none. Pending issues. 5-year facilities assessment, building committee.
Going well, we're gonna be starting the cafeteria roof here and about half of the middle school roofs in about 5 years from now. And that'll be done before the end of the summer.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Dave? Thank you. Football field lighting.
Nothing to report.
Nothing to report. I'll accept the motion to remove school redistricting from the
So
pending
moved.
issues.
Second?
Motion is second. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item 15.
So moved.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Did a good job, Definitely worth merit. It is. That's why when I used to start, first day of school, they'd have to buddy up. They would buddy up, and that's